What's going on, guys? Super Insane 18 here, and you guys absolutely crushed the like goal on our Rescue Ace Snake Eye deck profile. So as promised, I am bringing you a budget version, and I do need to preface this that the reason budget is in quotations is because this deck is still pretty pricey. We're obviously still playing the Wanted engine. We do have to play 2 copies of SP Little Knight, so it's definitely not something that you can just go out and buy for a relatively low price, but it's definitely much cheaper than having to spend your money on a playset of Bonfires as well as everything else that deck plays as well. So let's go ahead and show you guys the build. Kicking things off with the Rescue Ace monsters, of course we are going to have 3 copies of our Rescue Ace Hydrant. Unfortunately not a 1-card combo, but still you want to have a maximum number of copies of this because this in tandem with other cards is really insane, plus you want to be able to have it for follow-up as well in the grind game. Then we have our 1 copy of Airlifter. Wish that we could play 3, but unfortunately it did get limited, which did cut the consistency of this deck by quite a lot, but there are other consistency pieces we have that kind of make it okay that we don't have the other 2 copies, but you still obviously want to play it. We have our 2 copies of Preventer. This card is just incredible, not only being a 1-card summon by just banishing one of your things as well, but the utility of it having a Book of Moon-like effect as well as the ability to reborn your banished monsters, really strong. And then the boss monster of the deck, the Turbulence. This card is essentially a custom card. Being able to set 4 from your deck is just absolutely insane. Of course it has the other effect as well, but the more important one is the setting 4 from your deck. Then we have our 3 copies of Diabellstar, the Black Witch. This is the 1-card starter that we want to see more often than not, and we do have to max out on 3 copies because we lost the Airlifter. Previously, when Airlifter was at 3, you could get away with playing less than 3 copies, but now it's pretty much mandatory, and that's going to be it for the actual monsters. We do have a heavy hand trap count for this deck as well. We have our 3 copies of Ash Blossom, just one really strong hand trap for the format. Our 3 copies of Effect Veiler. I think that Effect Veiler is absolutely mandatory in the format because being able to negate your opponent's Snake Eye cards is really insane. Again, for both Ash and Oak, I've said this in previous videos before, negating their effects is essentially a 2-for-1 because you're going to be stopping not only the on-summon effect, but you will also stop the ability to summon one from deck, which is just crazy. And then we have our 3 copies of Nibiru, the Primal Being. This can be, honestly, any other hand trap of your choice. I don't think Droll is really that good right now because of how well decks can play around it, which is what makes Rescue Ace a little bit of a better option, because now with the way that the deck has changed, Droll actually does hurt a lot, and since people are kind of steering away from the Droll, we can kind of play this deck again, but I think that this is probably better than Droll. I don't think Nibiru on its own ever really does enough, but in tandem with another hand trap, then you can obviously put in a lot of work with it. That's going to be it for the monsters as a whole. We have our 3 copies of Emergency. This is just the deck-specific E-Telly, as well as your ability to recur your traps from the grave, which is super strong. Our 1 copy of Alert, our 1 copy of Rescue, and our 1 copy of HQ. These are just pretty self-explanatory. We have our 3 copies of Wanted. This is to add into the maximum consistency with the Diabellstar. Of course, also with our original Sinful Spoils to be able to summon the Hydrant from our deck without having to waste our normal summon. We are on 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. Again, this deck is all about the consistency, so you want to make sure that you are maxing out on every card possible to see the cards that you need to play, which brings us to the 1-for-1 as well as another way to get into our Hydrant, and the Reinforcement of the Army as a way to get into our Airlifter. Again, Droll is kind of seeing a decline, so being able to safely play the Reinforcement of the Army is really nice. That's going to be it for the spells. Onto the traps, we have our 1 Contain and our 1 Extinguish. Again, self-explanatory as part of the Rescue Ace package. And finishing it up, we have 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, making the main deck 40 cards. Let's show you guys the extra. And before we get into the extra, just a reminder that the Popular Monsters Metal Field Center is now available for pre-order on my website, insanetcg.com. The link will be down below. Don't forget that it is a limited run of just 100 pieces, so you definitely want to make sure you get yours before they are out. On the screen, I'm going to be putting the render from the manufacturer as well. This is what they sent me, so the field centers are in production, and I should be getting them in my hands within a couple weeks, so if you pre-order, you won't have to wait that long. Again, insanetcg.com, make sure you get yours before they're out. Now onto the extra deck, we are playing 12 cards that are absolutely mandatory, and then 3 flex spots, which I will have at the end, and we'll talk about why I chose what I chose. But to kick things off, we have our 1 copy of Link Rebo. This is just really important for all the level 1 fire decks right now. Then we have our 2 Charmers, so we have Dark and Hida as well. Those are just, again, super strong for the format. We can make the Dark using the Link Rebo. Hida's just insane in a fire format. We have our 1 copy of IP Masquerena, pairing that with our 2 copies of Little Knight. Now, I did mention at the beginning that 2 Little Knight is absolutely mandatory, and the reason is because you're usually going to burn one on your turn 1 combo, because the safest play, if you look at the previous Rescue Ace video I did, is to actually make a Little Knight before you summon out your Turbulence, because then regardless of what they do to the Turbulence, you will be able to resolve it. If they negate it on summon, you link the SP and the Turbulence into a Promethean Princess, and just reborn the Turbulence. If they try to negate it on activation, then the SP will banish it, letting it resolve. So 2 of these is really mandatory since 1 is going to be burned on that first turn. Then we have our 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix, finishing up the Link 2s. Onto the Link 3s, there's just 2 of them. We obviously have the Promethean Princess, incredible card for any fire strategy, paired with the Selene as well. This is just kind of a way to recur your Black Witch or your Diabellstar and kind of link climb even further, especially with the Charmers. Then we have 3 Link 4s. We have our Access Code, our Raging Phoenix, and our Zealantis. All of these are kind of the OTK cards, but the Raging Phoenix and the Zealantis are usable on turn 1. You can actually see pretty much the same combo if you look at my Snake Eye combos, where you're going to put the Zealantis, so you're going to make the Princess, you're going to link the Princess and something else into Zealantis, or into Raging Phoenix because you're fire locked. Then you go into the Zealantis, you banish the Zealantis, put it back in the main monster zone, and then now when you're making something like the Princess from the grave, or if you have the resources to go into an SP, you're going to have the Zealantis co-linked, meaning that you have additional destructions during your opponent's battle phase. And then now onto the 3 flex spots. We have the Mud Dragon of the Swamp, the Proxy F Magician, and the Abyss Dweller. Now, these 2 were seeing a lot of play before we got SP, because they were the way to kind of ensure that your opponent couldn't use Veiler or Imperm on your Turbulence, but now what I like to use them for is actually a way into your Abyss Dweller. Both the Diabellstar and the Airlifter are a 1-card set 4 plus Abyss Dweller, which is absolutely ridiculous because you're going to use the Proxy F Magician to make the Mud Dragon, and then you're going to overlay the Mud Dragon with the Airlifter into the Dweller. And with the fire format that we are in, with the top 2 decks being Pure Snake Eye and Fire King Snake Eye, making a Dweller and backing that up with your back row is pretty much an instant win. You just Dweller immediately, that way you don't play into something like Talents, and then you have all of your back row to kind of help you push through it as well if they continue to attempt to play, if they're even able to without those grave effects. So these are the 3 flex spots that I personally really like, but again, these can really be anything that you guys want. And there you guys have it. That is going to be the budget Rescue Ace deck profile. Again, quotations around the budget because there are still a good number of expensive cards here, but you are $300 down, not having to worry about the bonfires. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, you know the deal. Make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, comment, share with your friends. As always, don't forget to check out the channel sponsored Dueling Guard. Using code INSANE18 or my link in the description, you can get 5% off your entire order. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.